Every format has its king, and Rocket On's king was definitely Feraligatr. It was the most aggressive deck, and it was the only aggressive deck that could consistently deal really high damage every single turn. Other aggressive decks at the time, like Blaine's Arcanine, could deal really high damage, but then it would take a couple of turns to build back up to that. And then you had things like your Bellossom variants that could deal really high damage, but they were easily countered and easily thrown off in their strategy. Feraligator's Downpour ability lets you discard as many water energy as you want from your hand, and then its Riptide attack can play directly into that by dealing 10 damage plus 10 more times the number of water energy in your discard pile. So just the synergy with this single card alone lets you deal massive amounts of damage depending on how fast you can get water energy in your hand, attached to Feraligatr, and then discarding the excess. Because the secondary effect of Riptide is that you have to shuffle all the water energy in your discard back into your deck after you use the attack and deal damage, would normally mean that you have to restart the process all over again of getting those water energy back into your hand so that you can discard them and use the attack again. However, there's a huge way around this by abusing a couple of important trainers. The first of which is Misty's Wrath. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, take out the 2 that you want, and put the rest in your discard. Normally, this card is too risky for decks that don't want to mill through their deck too fast. However, for this one, you want as many cards in your discard as you can get because that means more water energy in there to up your attack power. So pretty much you play Misty's Wrath, you get 2 cards that you can use, and then hopefully you're putting 5 water energy in your discard. The build I'm about to discuss uses 23 water energy, so off of a Misty's Wrath, you're going to get at least a few water energy in the discard. The other important trainer is Trash Exchange. So after you've used Feraligator's attack, you've emptied your discard of water energy. They all go back in your deck. So all that's left in your discard is Pokemon and trainer cards until you play Trash Exchange. And then you're putting all of those really useful trainer cards back into your deck. And then you're putting a lot of water energy back into your discard, all off of one trainer. So just the synergy between Feraligatr, Misty's Wrath, and Trash Exchange means that you're perpetually setting yourself up for attacks that are dealing anywhere between 100 to 150 damage per turn. So now that we've talked about the basic idea of the deck, let's get into the actual build. So for each starter Pokemon and the evolutions of those starters in Neo Genesis, there were 2 copies of each. For this deck, I like to use the Totodile that has 50 HP. Its attacks aren't as good, but I would rather take survivability over usefulness early in the game. So a full playset of Totodile, a full playset of the Tackle Croconaw. Again, you probably won't be using those attacks very often. It's basically just a stepping stone to get up to Feraligatr. I will be using 3 Feraligatr in this deck. Not only because you really don't need more than 3, but also because it still remains a pretty expensive card. So the 3 Feraligatr not only help streamline the deck, but also help with the actual deck building process and getting a hold of the single cards. And then I'm going to have Cleffa, of course, the card that it goes into 100% of Rocket On decks. Cleffa ensures that you can constantly refresh your hand, getting new cards that you can use, or just the few cards that you really need to get set up. Cleffa also single-handedly shuts down Trapper decks and variants like Zappy Trappy. Elekid is a pretty great card for your setup when it feels like you don't really have anything else to do on your turn, like you've attached your energy. You can't really attack yet. Maybe you really don't need to use Eek off of Cleffa. You can use Elekid's ability to just deal a solid 20 damage to your opponent's active. We already went over Trash Exchange and how it can pretty much take all of your trainers, your Misty's Wrath, your Elms that you're getting in your discard, get those back into your deck while simultaneously filling your discard back up with water energy after every Riptide attack that you use. And Professor Elm is another hand refresher if you don't have quite what you need in your hand, or if you've played everything in your hand down to maybe like just a Professor Elm. That's going to give you 7 new cards, which are 7 new tools to help you get through the rest of your turn and set up for the rest of the game. Misty's Wrath, going to get those water energy in your discard. Not only is Misty's Wrath going to help you search through your deck for cards that you really need, it's going to let you pick out those Totodiles, Crocodiles, and Feraligatrs. That way you can get them on your bench and start evolving. But it's also going to get a lot of water energy in your discard. Focus Band is a huge staple card for all of the Rocket On decks. It can really be a game maker if your Feraligatr can survive a one-hit KO off of a Focus Band. That means you're going to be able to basically get another knockout yourself on your next turn. Secret Mission is going to be another fantastic utility card. Not only do you get to look at your opponent's hand, that way you can kind of plan ahead, see what they're working with, and counter whatever's coming your way, but also you can discard from your hand and draw more. So say you just want to discard everything in your hand and you draw more cards, you're going to get a lot of energy in your hand. And if you have Feraligatr already out, then that means you can discard straight from your hand, get a lot more water energy in your discard. Double Gust is another game-winning card. It basically lets you pick one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and bring it out, a lot like Gust of Wind. The opponent gets to do the same to you, but in this case, they're either bringing out another Feraligatr or they're bringing out a baby Pokemon, which all have free retreat. So they're going to end up with a Feraligatr either way. You're basically getting a free Gust of Wind off of it, and they're not really going to be able to take advantage of whatever they bring out from your bench. And then topping off the deck with 23 water energy, which are essential. Pretty much the strategy for this deck is very straightforward. You want to start out with a Cleffa, ideally as your active, with a Totodile on the bench. If you don't end up with a Totodile, then you can easily get one by playing a Professor Elm or a Misty's Wrath, just to mill through your deck a little bit, get a fresh new hand. Then you want to keep using Eek. That way you're refreshing your hand over and over, getting all of those really nice setup cards that you want, while getting your energy per turn on Totodile. By using Professor Elm's, Eek, Misty's Wrath, you're going to be getting the evolutions that you need. You can get Crocodile Feraligatr very quickly out of your deck. And then as soon as you have your setup, which is probably going to be on turn 3, you can retreat Cleffa or let it get knocked out if it's been knocked out by then. Either way, you're going to have a Feraligatr as your active. Start using that Poké Power. Start getting off attacks over and over again. Using Trash Exchange, Misty's Wrath, Secret Mission on rinse and repeat just to make sure you're dealing consistent high damage every single turn. And at this point, there's not a lot that can shut down your strategy, except for a few key cards which we'll talk about now. Dark Muck was a common counter for Feraligatr because it could deal 50 damage off of a Sludge Punch, after poison of course, and it would kind of force Feraligatr to stay in and keep taking poison damage because of Sticky Goo. This also made it so that Cleffas and other baby Pokemon couldn't retreat for free, which is normally how Pokemon would get rid of special conditions. Dark Vileplume was another huge threat because it could shut down the synergy between Feraligatr and the trainers that it abused, which could effectively force Feraligatr to have to resort to only using its power in order to power up its attack, meaning that it's dealing less damage for the rest of the game until it could deal with Dark Vileplume. Because of these threats, a lot of Feraligatr decks began to run 1 or 2 copies of Magby. Magby enjoyed all the benefits of being a baby Pokemon while also having an attack that countered the counters to Feraligatr. Sputter could deal 20 damage to grass Pokemon that were weak to fire, that were commonly used against Feraligatr, and it could also shut down the Pokemon powers of cards like Dark Vileplume and Dark Muck, which would then allow Feraligatr to circumvent those troublesome powers for at least that turn. So it could shut down a Dark Vileplume, play all of the trainers that it needed to power up its attacks. It could retreat the Magmy to get a Feraligatr out onto the field without having to worry about the extra retreat cost from a Dark Muck. Another option you have to tech into this deck would be using the 40 HP Totodile that has Rage as an attack. That way later in the game you could pull off a Recall Rage, which could potentially deal somewhere around 110, 120 damage under the right circumstances to surprise your opponent. It's not really helpful other than just the element of surprise because Feraligatr can deal more damage than that just with its normal setup, but it is an option. If you're wanting to further maximize the amount of water energy you're getting in your discard each turn, you could run a copy of Rocket's Training Gym. That way, whenever your opponent's having to retreat, they have to pay extra. But when you're retreating your Clefas to the bench, you're actually discarding a water energy off of it to your discard to do so, which helps not only put your opponent in a bad spot, but also help you get an extra 10 damage off of your attack. I have a lot more Rocket On decks coming up. If there is a certain Rocket On deck that you would like to see, make sure you throw it down in the comments. That way I can build it, test it, and get it recorded in time to throw up while I'm still in this area of the TCG. Or if there are any decks I may have missed from my other playlist, let me know and I'll get right on those. Thanks for watching as always, and until next time, bye.